Tyler blew up his channel very quickly, and he shares exactly how he did it.
It was our first video. We knew we had a lot to learn. Cam had never written a script. The editor never edited a full-length YouTube video before. We knew we needed to make our videos like a lot more general. Who's watching, why they should care, what's interesting about the channel. As soon as YouTube tested it on the homepage, hit 1 million views after a couple weeks, 0 to 1,000 in 4 days.
And later he shares some amazing thumbnail and title tips, as well as advice he has for small creators to start growing their YouTube channels.
You gotta just press record.
I wanted to ask you, the gaming niche is a very competitive niche. What made you decide to start a brand new YouTube channel in that specific genre?
Yeah, we were talking about just the power of YouTube. He was talking about how difficult it is to market the game, get people to hear about it. And most of these people making games are typically, creatives and technical people who don't necessarily have a lot of business experience. We knew we needed to make our videos a lot more general, at least at first especially. Our most viewed video right now is called How Free Games Trick You Into Spending Money. A concept like that can really appeal to people who aren't even gamers. There's nuggets there in our videos that are meant for this small audience of developers. But if that's all we went for, we're gonna have a really difficult time.
Talk about the strategy though. Why do you think your channel did so well early on? And also tell me the story about posting that first video and posting the first couple of videos, reaching 1,000 subscribers.
That first video of ours, we didn't do anything particularly groundbreaking with the video itself. It was our first video. We knew we had a lot to learn. We knew in the process of the video that we were making some compromises because we knew we weren't going to make a perfect video. We really just looked into what people wanted to hear and what we wanted to say, especially that first video. It's like Cam wanted to lay out his thoughts on the gaming industry, and people just wanted a video, I think, at that time that was like that, that covered these two contrasting David versus a Goliath, the underdog story. And a lot of people wanted to chime in and give their 2 cents. And as soon as YouTube tested it on the homepage, it started to get pretty good metrics and didn't slow down for several days and hit 1 million views after a couple weeks. The engagement was high, and I think just YouTube found a place and found an audience for it.
So how do you come up with video ideas? What's the research phase? And then also looking at your channel, a lot of your videos get a ton of views. How do you know which one you think you're this one's not gonna, do very well? You're this one could do really well for us. How do you know if your target audience really thinks it's interesting?
Yeah, for the most part, we're paying attention to just interesting questions that people generally have. For example, our most recent video, why modern games take forever to make. A game had just come out called Starfield by a very popular studio, Bethesda. They made games like Fallout, Skyrim. Basically, this new game of theirs was their first new intellectual property since, I think it was 25 years ago. If you pay enough attention over a long enough period of time, you just kind of see the code in the matrix, and you can honestly just see the patterns. People just kind of have this subconscious question about why things are taking so long, or why there's just bigger gaps between some of these large games from these large studios. I think it's just paying attention, right? It's paying attention to what people care about.
If you're looking to get your first 1,000 subscribers or make your first $1,000 on YouTube, then join our free YouTube challenge that many other small creators have joined and seen tons of success. During this free challenge, Sean is going to share some of the best strategies for growing to your first 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, as well as making your first $1,000. Just go to tube1kchallenge.com or check the link down in the description. I think another thing too, with your latest video, for example, the title is Why Modern Games Take Forever to Make. What I feel really makes that video even more interesting is the thumbnail, because the title just by itself, I'm yeah, that's kind of interesting, but I'm also, I can't really visualize. I'm well, how long does it take? There's certain elements that I'm not sure about, but then I look at the thumbnail, and you can see it on the screen here. It says 2007. You got this list of video games, and then it's 1 year and you just see one video game. To me, that's very interesting. That also tells a story, because I'm did this one, developer company make all these games in 2007 and then they just made one game in 2023? That really tells a story. How much does the thumbnail matter? And how do you think about combining it with the title?
Using that last one as an example, for simplicity's sake, we only put one game on the right side and a stack of popular games from that era on the left side. And of course, with the new game Starfield coming out, and with it taking so long to produce, and with this general feeling that these companies are making less games that are bigger, it made sense to put one game on the right side as like, this is the game I thought was great so far this year. It's partially simplifying to make sure it's very high clarity at a glance, right? And partially like the viewer is seeing this story of like, it's Cam's perspective, right? In the video, he talks about he was a teenager in that era and he was buying all these great games and he's remembered them and it's so nostalgic for him. And nowadays he is just playing less games and he sees this game Starfield and it took so long to make, and it's kind of like merging those two things together, right? So it's partially nostalgia, it's partially that people have changed, like Cam, his perspective, where he is in life. We could have put a bunch of games on the right side, but it wouldn't have basically communicated the same idea of like games are coming out slower, right? I think it's hugely important to have a great title and thumbnail, and I think an okay title with a great thumbnail is just not as powerful as an okay thumbnail with a great title. If you had to pick one singular element out of the whole thing that is YouTube, I do think the thumbnail is the number one most important thing.
You have an amazing video on your personal channel about thumbnails, because people are hearing you. They're like, thumbnails are important, but how do you learn how to make a good thumbnail? I think your video is a great resource, but what would be some good takeaways?
That video is just an extension of what I would recommend other people do, which is like study, I guess. Look into what's working, not just in your niche, but YouTube in general. But not just what's working on YouTube, what's interesting to human beings. Like what's weird is over the last few years, I've been realizing whether it's in comedy or news, right? Or YouTube videos, contrast for some reason is just so highly appealing to human beings. Maybe it makes things easier to understand. There's other things from that video I noticed just consistently do well because I paid attention over a long period of time. It's much more important to focus on the human beings and focus on what adds the most value to them and what is most important and interesting to them. And I think eventually the algorithm follows suit because that's all it's trying to do is optimize for the things people want.
I think a huge thumbnail tip that I've kind of learned from you, you don't just make the same thumbnail 3 different times with different colored text. You make different thumbnails oftentimes that I've seen where it's actually the entire packaging is different.
Yeah, if you just change one word or one color, it just produces smaller results and it's just not as big of a insight, I guess. Like what a thumbnail and title is a concept that communicates something to a potential viewer, right? And if together your title and thumbnail make a concept and you're planning the video around that concept, in the early stages, if you haven't done the video yet and you're coming up with some concepts, you can come up with variations, right, of the same concept that can totally change how you deliver the information. It's the same information, but it totally changes how you deliver it and how you make the video itself, how it gets written. For example, our worst performing video, it's a video about AI. After the video went live and it wasn't doing too hot, we're like, let's revisit and look at this and see what lessons we can learn. The video mentioned how AI will affect cheating, and we didn't make the video very much around that topic. It's brought up, but if we were to package it referencing how AI will change cheating, I think it would have resonated with a lot more people and just viewers on YouTube and gamers, and it would have been a lot more interesting. I think that's the power of coming up with these different concepts of like, okay, how AI will affect how we play games is different than how AI will affect cheating, even though how AI affects cheating is like an aspect of how we play games. I just think it resonates more and is more interesting, and therefore would have been better packaging if we committed to that earlier in the process and wrote the video around that.
So if you potentially change your thumbnail and title to something that's a bit more clickable, but you don't really talk about it much in your video, it could lead to a lower average view duration. There is something to be said that, your average view duration really matters, but when you just look at that, you're like, of course I need to come up with my thumbnail and title beforehand rather than waiting till the end to do it and realizing, no one's going to click on this. It's not interesting.
Most people just don't understand some of the basics. Who's watching, why they should care, what's interesting about the channel. A very simple twist in packaging can really change everything about a video, and it's not because of some weird magic going on behind the scenes in the algorithm. It's just that people were more interested. Again, it's just the human psychology and the human behavior of the people who you call your viewers. And that's hard. That takes a lot of time. What makes you different? Why you over someone else? You know, there's a lot of challenge type creators who are, you know, Mr. Beast impersonators, right? They make very similar content. Other times you'll see straight up plagiarizing almost, right? Like where the title and thumbnail are like the same. And I just think that sort of thing is just doing them a disservice. What makes you special?
What tips do you have them, or what do you see often holds those people back who can't get a video to get a lot of views?
Whether you're a new YouTuber or someone with a little bit of experience like me, or someone who's really ahead of the curve, everyone is learning. Everyone should be learning. You know, new YouTubers typically kind of just don't know what they're doing, but that's okay because, I mean, everyone had to start somewhere, and even the biggest creators are learning. And so I think that's just the biggest takeaway is, like, no matter what stage you are, you have to be a student. You know, you have to understand that you still have a lot more to learn. I think it's just a long game because, sure, 0 to 1,000 in 4 days, brand new channel. It sounds very impressive, and it was a whirlwind to go through, and it was awesome, but there's ups and downs all the time. I definitely think that no matter what kind of YouTuber you are, you should just really enjoy the platform, be a student, and be willing to play the long game for many years.
Typically, one of the biggest things that I see that's holding them back is they haven't been learning long enough. And learning comes from making YouTube videos. Just keep putting in the reps, keep making videos, try and learn from every video, and eventually you'll get better by doing. And if you click on the screen, just go watch Tyler's thumbnail video because I think it's amazing. I love this video, and you're probably going to learn a ton by watching it. So click on the screen. We'll see you guys in the next video.